and welcome to Coffee with Phil, where our goal is to help you live a life of purpose on purpose. We believe that we each become wiser through the people we meet and the stories we hear. So today, we want to connect you with someone new. To help you find the wisdom in today's story, here's your podcast host, Phil Strong.
Well, g'day and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Phil. I'm really glad you joined me today. I've got a special guest, as all my guests are, of course, but Ryan Hamilton has been a friend of mine for a long time. You'll hear us speak of many experiences that we shared together. I was fortunate enough to journey through most of the story that Ryan shares with you today, and I wanted you to find the gold in his journey, because I can assure you, most of you will not walk the path he's walked. And so why would you want to listen today? Well, there are some key things that you can learn and transfer to your own situation. Look, Ryan talks about his journey into local politics. And like I said, many of you won't want to do that. But here's the thing. He's going to show you how you can see things and know that it's your assignment to do something about it. He's going to show you that if you have faced failure in your life, how can you deal with that? What do you do when you fail, but you know you shouldn't give up? Ryan identifies some key things that we can all learn from that. And I really want you to listen in as we reflect on his journey, but then we pull out the gold for you so that you can make sure you get the best thing. And look, there's something at the end. You know, this guy does so much in the community, family, business, and other. I just wanted him to share his perspective on how he finds balance and how you can find balance. And look, it's a great thing. It's about minute number 50 if you want to skip forward to it, if you get a bit bored. But don't miss what Ryan shares at the end about how you can succeed and achieve a life of balance at the same time. So let's get into the podcast. Ryan was gracious enough to buy me a quad shot coffee before we sat down together. So I was wired, he was wired, and we had some fun together. So why don't you sit back, listen, and enjoy this interview with Ryan Hamilton. Okay, so here I am with Ryan. It's great to be with Ryan. Oh, mate, how long have we been friends? A long time.
Yeah, gosh, 12, 13, 14.
Yeah, you look older than I do, so...
Yeah, I need a shave.
Yeah. So we've travelled a long way, we've been through a lot of things, and particularly today, I just wanted to look at focus the journey, or the story of the journey on politics, which is something that you've been passionate about for a long time, and you're now living in some ways, many ways, full time, with several things going on. So look, what I really want to do is just ask you some questions about your drive to be involved in local government. When did that first start?
It's funny, actually, I was just at the start, it reminded me when Andrew King was trying to talk me to run for the by-election, and he goes, "It'll be fun," he said. "It'll be a day a week," he said. And it's like a full-time gig.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Sorry, so your question was...
where did that inner drive come from for you to be involved?
I don't know. I think there was a couple of stories I remember when I was flatting back when I was like 20, 21, and I had this thought about politics for the first time, and at the time it was actually... I was into I still am into a lot of health supplements and things like that, and I thought, oh, maybe the Green Party. And I just had this seed of politics, and I'm not really Green Party focused now, but there was like just the seed of politics. And then I was speaking at a mate's 21st, just acknowledging him, and one of the dads said to me afterwards, "Oh, I can see you in politics or something." And I don't know, just those two things were just like seeds that kind of made me sort of think about that, I guess, in a different way. And then I just shelved it. But it wasn't until 2004 I was quite involved with Destiny Church at the time, and they were quite political, as a lot of people know, rightly and wrongly in some cases, probably. But locally, so central government had made a rule around brothels and prostitution, and effectively the decision in terms of how local councils or local government dealt with it was up to the local cities, and so I got quite involved with that because a lot of people were concerned that these brothels would be close to, next door or to schools and people associated with it and all that sort of stuff. So I just got sort of drawn into this political discussion, and it was around the time of an election, and then I got drawn in, and that was the first time I threw my hat in the ring. And meanwhile, Destiny was running a national party campaign, a political party campaign in the background, so it was sort of this convergence of all this energy, I guess.
Yeah, right. So you discovered something inside you that was more of a hunger to affect change, or to affect families, affect the way people live in their city.
Yeah, I think it was one of those ones where you kind of felt compelled to stand. Like you just thought you needed to fill the gap. If not me, then who? Sort of a thing.
Yeah, right. I suppose what I'm digging for is, as we've got so many different listeners, different walks of life, not everyone wants politics. No, not many people would choose that public life. But I suppose what I'm trying to encourage people to search for is, what is that cause? What is that burden? Or what is it about the world that you see that you go, you know what, I have to stand for this?
Yeah, I think it's very much that you see a problem and you're sort of wondering why no one else sees it, or you feel a compulsion and you're starting to get stirred up, and then you stop looking externally and you go, well, hang on, maybe I'm the reason, or maybe I'm the need for that gap to change. I think it's the same in business and entrepreneurship, isn't it? You see an opportunity to add value or a gap in the marketplace, and then you feel, well, why not me?
Yeah, that's so good, eh? If no one else is standing up, maybe it's because you're supposed to. Yeah. So it's 2004. You've got an exposure to what's happening in your city. In fact, what's happening nationally. And you're not happy about it, you put your hat in the ring, you get involved, you get into the discussion, you throw your energy into it. You're a lot more youthful and a lot more energetic back then. But that stirred something. And I knew you back then, so we've been friends longer than 12 years. But what was it like? You decided to go and stand on the side of the road, placards, and say, vote for me, I want to be in the council.
Yes, I mean, pretty naive and young, and I suppose aspirational, confident without having any really reason to be confident.
It's called you.
Yeah. And just I had no idea how to campaign or anything, so you just kind of give it a nudge, and it becomes quite exciting, the campaign thing, because you're speaking to audiences and people are taking you seriously, and all of a sudden it gives you a real sense of purpose and meaning. But for me, it was unsuccessful.
Okay, so talk about that process.
Well, I think too that really guarded me for later on in life, because it's one of those things you put everything into it, and I think running for anything public like that is really, you're putting yourself out there, and it's really hard when you don't be. I mean, I think I came 8th out of 20 people, it might have been more. And you think, you don't see it as like, oh, you actually did really good coming out of nowhere. You think, oh, I failed, people don't like me. And I took months to recover from that. Mentally, it was really bizarre. But I think that's part of it, is if you want something, you've got to lay it all on the line. And probably one of the things that encouraged me at the time was I got involved with a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And one of the principles he talked about was the seed of, or every failure has a seed of an equal or greater equivalent.
Right.
And that was the sort of thing that you could hold on to and go, this is part of it, it's not the end of it.
So even in facing a failure, and in your case it was a public failure because it was a public election, you took strength from Napoleon Hill's quote, which, could you repeat that for us?
I think it's the seed of every failure has the seed of an equal or greater equivalent.
Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, it might be raining and we might be feeling like we've got failure, and there's an emotional response. Clearly you grieved, took you months to get over it, But what we've now got to do is search for the seed for something greater that's inside that failure.
Yeah, and if you look at all successes, generally they've all got that story or stories. The other thing, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and he talks about God's delays are not God's denials.
Right.
And that's really encouraging too, just to know sometimes there's a timing in it.
Yeah, so the key thing that you learned from the first time you didn't succeed was, I got to get up, I've got to look for the great thing that's in the seed, that's a seed form, that might not yet be fully formed, and then I've got to recognise that this is not necessarily a denial, it might be a delay, because I know that wasn't your last time trying for council.
It's funny because a year later I ran for the Well Energy Trust, which was a public office, which just got voted in last night, and I missed out on that too. But what it did was it started to expose me to people that would start to see me in that environment, and so I got involved. And then 2007 I could have run for council again, but I didn't feel the timing was right. And ironically, that was probably the easiest time I could have got in, because I think only 7 people ran in the ward or something like that. It was really, but it wasn't, the timing wasn't right for me. And then 2010, I had the opportunity to join a team, and I thought, okay, yep, I'll do that. My wife was supportive of it, and long story short, missed out again. But I think I was more guarded this time when I ran, because I was like, well, I'd do it, but I probably held back a little bit.
Right, so that anticipation of the potential for not success.
Yeah, I was sort of hedging my bets a little bit.
Oh man, we could unpack that, So you were hedging your bets, you're a little bit unsure, and how did that election go for you?
Yeah, not very well.
Okay, maybe there's something in that. Yeah. So again, like you threw. I mean, I know you well, mate. You throw yourself into things. You don't do things half-heartedly. You're willing to invest yourself, and you get knocked back. Second time, what's going through your head?
So that was actually the 4th time, because I ran for the Well Energy Trust twice during that time as well.
Okay.
I was kind of like, okay, time to get over it, focus on the business, because I just launched my business, which had been a challenging transition, as you know as well.
Yes.
So basically starting out from scratch. So it was kind of, dust myself off, move on. It was like a bitter pill to swallow, but I didn't have the luxury of wallowing.
Right.
Because I had a family that needed income and business, so it was dig into my faith, and that was
yeah. So we're facing this we've got in one hand what I remember in the genesis of it for you was this absolute conviction. I've got to stand up. I've got to be part of this, and I'm going to throw myself into it. We could call it a calling, we could call it a purpose, but there was a determination in you that I really respected and still do. You get knocked back 4 times, you go, oh well, I just dust myself off. How do people do that well? Give us some insight into how others could do it well.
It's a hard one, eh? I think a lot of people probably would want to give up. I think I did. I think I just shelved it. I just put it out. I don't know if I couldn't deal with it, but I just shelved it, and I felt like I didn't have to say I'd never do it again. I just said I don't have to deal with it right now, and I parked it. And I think then when the opportunity reveals itself again, you can deal with it with a fresh set of eyes.
Very good. So what you're saying is, in the face of failure and the emotion of failure, you don't have to face it immediately. Sometimes it's better to put it on the shelf, allow yourself to just walk a few more steps before you then deal with some of the consequences or fallout of that.
Yeah, because I think it was that whole thing, God's delays are not God's denials, and it was, why do I keep doing this? Like, why am I putting myself through this in my family, and and spending money on campaigns? Why? And I didn't have an answer, and I was like, okay, well, I don't need to have an answer right now, because there was still other stuff in my life going on.
Yeah, so maybe because you were launching your business, that was pretty full on at the time. maybe it is for people just recognising that if you've got to shift your focus, make sure you're shifting it to something positive. You're not shifting it to negativity. You're not shifting it to wallowing. You know, I don't believe anyone really has the luxury of wallowing for more than a moment. But yeah, so here's a key for people who are listening. If you face failure, shift your attention to something positive and invest in that for a while before you come back to review your failure.
Yeah, because it's not often until you see the lessons in hindsight and you look back and where your life sort of veers off and you think, that was actually perhaps a blessing in disguise. And even looking at it like through a human lens, you know, that was a time that council got involved with the V8s and a whole bunch of stuff, and a lot of people got pretty roasted through that experience. So, you know, maybe I was being saved from something there.
Yeah, there's always timing, isn't there, in the perfecting of our plan and our moment in the spotlight. So in hindsight, looking back, it's 2010? You didn't go so well. Was that, and then the fourth time was 20?
So that was the fourth time because I did council twice, Energy twice, and then I ran for DHB in 2013 because I thought that was a nice sort of a sidestep where you can be involved with a governance organisation, it's publicly accountable, but it wasn't quite the full Monty. So again, I probably flirted with the concept a little bit.
Well, I'm going to look at it a different way, Ryan, because what I'm seeing is the clarity in you of being involved in affecting or contributing to social change or the governance of a city. But there are 4 or 5 doors you could have walked through to get into that. You knocked on the door of being a councillor and you continued to knock on that door. At the same time, you explored the door of being involved in the Energy Trust, was about distributing good in the community. You knocked on a different door, being the DHB. I think what I'm seeing, or what I'm realising as a learning point, is that there are many doors to which we could pass through in order to walk into some purpose.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Then 2016, that was, what number are we up to?
Yeah, number 5 now.
So hang on, 2 council, 2 DHB, so this is the sixth campaign.
Yep.
What was my thinking around that point? There was a couple of councillors moving on, which, you know, statistically is a good thing, you know, because incumbents, you know, traditionally, you know, and you can't let statistics judge politics because anything can happen. That's been another learning. But so I thought, okay, this is it. This is the last time. I went pretty full on. My goal was to knock on 1,000 doors because, you know, door knocking is a really, it's hard work, but it's something I think really grassroots people respect about that. You know, you're really, you know, in the community. You can't get any more granular than that. They're knocking on someone's door. So I tried to do that. It was hard to find the time. It was winter, but I knocked on 1,034 doors, and that was really rewarding. But I polled 8th, I think I missed out by about 200 votes, and it was quite an interesting moment because it was when Andrew King and Paula were like a handful of votes away. And if Paul had got in, it potentially opened up a seat in my ward and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, I was quite open-handed about that, and I missed out, and I took it quite graciously. I think it was about...
You can say that now. We can't judge it because we weren't there.
Yeah, well, I was. Yeah, I won't talk about the political outcome of that, but I felt there was more at play. It was bigger than me, and I felt at peace with it. And it was about the Sunday. I found it was Saturday morning. Sunday night, I think I had a little cry, and that was it. And I was like, back to the business again. And it was like, I know what to do here.
Yeah.
This is a clear no. So it kind of gave me a clear yes in another direction. So that was actually quite helpful. It was hard, but I was like, okay. And then I'm getting on with business, put it all behind me, moving on. 2017, one of the local politicians passes away, and it creates a by-election. And a couple of people in the community were saying,
So just for those that are not politically inclined or understand, there's an election where everyone votes, and that wasn't successful. But then this councillor passed away suddenly, wasn't expected. And so what is a by-election? It's like another mini-election?
It's a mini-election just for that one seat.
Right, okay. So there's one vacant chair at the council table, and there's another election.
And this is after I've said I'm really sick of this. I'm really tired. And I wasn't going... In fact, I'd just had a holiday with the family, and I was talking to Marie about it, and we were looking on some social media stuff, and they're complaining about... playgrounds and the social media and all the keyboard warriors, and I was like, oh, and Marie's like, do you really want to deal with all that? I'm like, nah, okay, I'm not gonna run. This is a holiday. A week later, I get back. Andrew's ringing me going, this is your chance, Ryan. This is your chance.
Yeah, so the mayor himself, and I know we're friends with Andrew, but he is literally calling you out on those things he knows is within you.
Yeah, he's really relentless. And
it's an understatement.
Yeah, and just like I was like, and I'm struggling because I felt like this is pulling the Band-Aid off again, and so I did. I had a business mentor at the time too, and he thought it was silly. All the business people thought it was silly. Like, why would you do that? You should just focus on your business. Politics is this old man's game, and we've seen that sort of change recently. And so I had to sort of talk to these people about why I could do it, and I had to go through my own process of how I could manage both, and because a lot of people do it as it's their sole focus. You don't get too many people doing it with multiple things on, or the conventional thing was you do it when you're 50 or 60, and you're kind of semi-retired. So that was another challenge, I guess. But anyway, okay, I thought, well, this is mine to lose, so. I never reached my 3,000 doors previously, so I thought I'd have another go at that.
So you're knocking on doors again?
Yeah, so I knocked on doors. This was over... So the by-election started in November, and you got Christmas, and it was a really funny time of year, and I thought I'm not going to really do much until January because people don't care pre-Christmas. They're busy, and so January started out in my jandals because it was so hot. Knocked on another 1,000 doors. Did some campaigning, and yeah, I just felt, I guess it's also who else is standing at the time, and not a lot of pre-existing people had been running. So profile-wise, I think I had a good chance, and successful outcome.
Successful outcome, number 7.
Yeah.
Wow. So congratulations, that's awesome, and I remember celebrating with you at the time, albeit from a distance. But there's a couple of keys. Like we need to pause here before we move on, because you've said 3 key things at least to me that I want the listeners to catch, because not everyone's into politics. Not everyone is going to be able to relate to your journey as a business owner, a dad, a husband, and then diving into politics. But everybody can relate to how do I deal with failure and how do I keep going. There's a couple of things I want to highlight. Firstly, you said getting involved in the journey exposed you to people who were also carrying the similar passion, and I think that's a key. Whether it's I want to help young children, whether it's I want to share my faith, whether it's I want to be involved in business, and you also run a business group we'll talk later about. But your first key that I really think is critical is if you've got a passion or a burden, get around the people who have the same passion. And you were exposed as a young man to those kind of those circles.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because it's if I hadn't stepped out in the first place, I wouldn't have got the attention of those people. And with Andrew, interestingly, I was sort of saying to you before, I think I helped encourage him into that space. And when I'd hit the wall, it was him that was able to then carry me and nudge me over the line.
Comes back to help. That's good. The second thing that we observed was that there are more than one doorway that you can walk through sometimes to get to where you know you need to be. And so if someone's really trying hard to do something and failing, and I feel like I'm preaching to myself now, but everyone else can listen for their benefit. There's more than one door you can walk through to contribute to the end goal, and I think that's a really key takeaway for some people, that they're banging their head on the door that's locked, And I feel like we just need to say to them, hey, look up, walk around a corner, you might find a different door.
Yeah, and in the end, I probably came in through the same door, but it took 14 years for the owner to open it.
Yeah, fair comment. But you were also prepared to look at other doors.
Yeah, yep.
And that stopped you from having a super bad headache. And then the third and final thing that I really wanted to highlight, because we have some younger listeners here, and younger people need to hear this from us oldies, if I could be so rude, and that is you're prepared to wear out shoes, or jandals as it was. You were prepared to knock on doors, you were prepared to walk the streets, you were prepared to do the hard yards, you were prepared to stand on the side of the road in the rain with a placard. Too many people fail, and it's because they don't do the hard yards. And sometimes my phrase is, you've just got to wear out shoes.
Yeah.
You've got to walk the yards to get to the goal.
Yeah, there was one Sunday, I think it was a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and I was like, I'd done quite a bit, and I was like, the weather was a bit average, and I was feeling a bit like, could just stay at home and watch Netflix. And I think I spoke to my brother, and he said, how much do you want it?
Yeah.
And that gave me a bit of a nudge, and I went and knocked on another 50 doors that afternoon, I think. And in the end, I won by over 400 votes, but you don't know what the tipping point is.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. So in doing the hard yards, sometimes you do it, one afternoon at a time. Like you wanted to do 3,000 doors, your milestone was 1,000, but like, let me just do 50. Let me get off the couch, let me put on my jandals or my walking shoes, and I'm just going to go and talk to 50 people.
Yeah. And I often found if I could do 50 in an hour, so you could do 100 in 2 hours, and so on an afternoon, if you could knock off 100, it was like by the time you're 70, you're kind of knackered. But it's that 100, it's those bite-sized pieces.
Bite-sized pieces is very good wisdom. Yeah. So those were really some key things I thought that we'd capture for people who are on a journey towards their destination. Firstly, we had to what was the first one? We're as hopeless as each other.
Bring people.
Yeah,
people.
That's right.
Connect with the right people.
Connect with the right people was the first one. Second one was appreciate there's more than one door to walk through. And the third thing was you got to be prepared to do the hard yards and walk the distance.
Yeah, and the start and stop was 14 years.
Yeah, that's a significant amount of time. Especially, obviously, the younger you are, the greater percentage of your life that is. So here we are. We're now sitting in, this is 2020. You were voted in 2018. So you come into an existing council. What was it like to get into your first council meeting, having journeyed 14 years?
I kind of felt like I hit the ground running, like I was just ready to go. Andrew, as the mayor, sort of said, just be quiet for 6 months and just learn and take your time. And in the first meeting, I raised an amendment to save some money and stuff. I was into it, I enjoyed it, and we were in the middle of the 10-year plan and the rates challenge and some real controversial stuff. But it was really good. It was like I was ready.
Yeah.
So I caught up fast.
I think the thing is though, when I used to call it in the old days, and do now, you sweet spot. When you find that sweet spot that you've been prepared for, you've worked hard for, don't waste any time. Get in, and that's what I see happening.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, very, very good. And so you get involved in council. You've got some things. What's a couple of your biggest accomplishments, you reckon? Talk about the wall. Talk about the journey of the wall.
Yeah, well, the wall's an interesting one. It's sort of a council, non-council one.
So explain for the listeners, because we've got people all over the world. You had this thing go on years ago.
So in Hamilton, it's a retaining wall, effectively. Excuse me. It's 248 metres long. It's, I think, 11 metres at its highest point. And it's just been a blank, dirty canvas. And for a long time, people have said, it'd be good to do something. And there's been sort of iterations, but nothing really formally. And I had an inkling a while ago to do something on that wall, and it was back to what we started the beginning. You see an opportunity to do something, and no one's doing anything. You just, I'm going to do it. And so I started on a journey, and you were part of the encouragement for that, Phil. So kind of partly your fault there.
You're welcome.
But I organised. I went to the media and said, "This is what I want to do," and pulled together some people, and went on a journey of trying to create, get the right stakeholders involved in creating a mural. So it'd be the largest mural in New Zealand. And I'm not an artist, but murals, public art really speaks to people in different ways. So that in itself has been a learning experience. But went on this journey for 2 years. Then there were some other public art trusts that were already in place. So I thought, great, they were quite interested, partnered with them. And then they said, oh, actually, no, this isn't a fit for our brief. Thanks anyway. So basically, I just dropped the ball. And after 2 years of navigating all that space, left it, and quite disillusioned. And then when I was running for council in 2016, I picked. Oh, there were a few iterations before then too. There was a couple of trusts that go, yep, no. And so I was getting frustrated. So I was like, well, I'm going to take the destiny in my own hands and create my own trust and just make this thing happen and drive it through. So in 2016, I announced it kind of as part of my campaign, because obviously it had some political benefit, but so I started on that journey, didn't get elected, but felt accountable. Well, I said I'm going to do this, so regardless of outcome, I need to follow through. So went on a huge journey of getting people involved, the local Wintec council, roading, painting tech, and then we had to get council approval. By then I was actually on council, so I had to step aside from the vote, but ensure or give council comfort that there was a robust process around it. So long story short, we've now got the largest mural in New Zealand. We did it in January this year. We raised nearly $100,000. Getting the money was the easy part.
Okay.
And then we were cleaning it. Our company was cleaning it, and I thought, we'll knock it out in 2 days. We'll just water blast the wall. End of day one, we'd done about 3%.
Oh, wow.
And I had the artists lined up, ready to go. And I had a bit of a moment.
Yeah, right. So you've carried this vision. You've decided if no one else can see the opportunity, this is a gift to the city. I'm going to put my hand up. You persevere for a dozen years. You walk through it. And I love what you said, though. You said, I didn't get voted on council, but I'd made a promise I was accountable to, and I was going to carry on with it anyway. There's a key piece of encouragement for some people out there that don't feel they have the authority for something, but if they've made a commitment for it, then they need to carry through with it. And that's a key thing there. I think that's awesome. But then it's bigger than you realise.
Yeah, actually, when we actually physically had started, so I didn't really get much of a holiday because I was planning all of this. We're starting in early January. Well, roads were quiet, etc. Hit the wall, really nervous because all of a sudden it's a huge reputational risk. We've got all these funders involved, got traffic management, which was about $15,000 a week, assuming you're on time. The artists were lined up there from out of town, and all of a sudden we snagged, and that was rough. And part of my learning through that was I talked to another guy who was quite good at mentoring me through the process, who'd been involved in public art, and he said, if you've got to this is your full-time gig for 3 weeks, then that's okay. And it kind of gave me space to go, actually, yeah, if I've got to, then that's okay, rather than trying to. The other thing that I learned was I'd driven it so hard, and I'd had to get it off the ground because a lot of people thought it could never be done. And I had to convince people opposite the table that they would believe that it could be done, so that everyone could believe.
Yeah, right.
And sort of holding it all together. But the trouble with that was it was driven by me, but it fell on me, like all the responsibility, so I couldn't share it when I needed it. So for me going forward, it's definitely trying to bring more people with you, so that in that moment of challenge, you're not carrying the burden.
Very, very good. So it's one thing to be inspiring; it's another thing to take people with you, who help carry the load. Yeah, and when it's bigger than what you realise, what I just heard you say was through your mentor, you were coached, advised to make it your full 100% commitment for a period of time. I think it's good for us to recognise that, okay, if this is really important, I'm allowed to put down some of my usual responsibilities to fully connect with what this is in the moment.
Yeah, and that first night I went home and I said to Marie, like I was really struggling, and she goes, well, you've been pregnant with this for so long, and now you've just got to push.
Oh, thank you. Your wife giving you advice on birth. That's awesome.
But it was the perfect thing, because I'd done all this work, and now there was contraction pains.
Brilliant.
And that was
Yeah,
that was a good way to look at it.
it's a very good way to look at it, though, isn't it? And you know, like having given birth to 2 children myself, you know, there's an intensity that's going on where there's nothing else in the world that matters except what's happening right at that moment. I know for me, when I get fully immersed in a project, I've actually got to ask permission to those that I'm close to me for me to disregard some of my normal responsibilities. You know, so if I've got a book project that's got a deadline, or we've got a public event that I'm hosting or running, I really do need to say, hey family, I'm checking out, and it's only short term, but I'm just asking for your blessing because I'm all in. I've got everything on.
That's good.
Yeah, but that's what you did. You went home and talked to them about it.
Yeah, I think I didn't have the lateral vision to realise what was happening. I was just so caught up in it, but not giving myself the grace to go, oh, this is okay. You've worked for this for so long.
And this is where you talked before about hindsight. We can reflect. And one of the reasons I desperately wanted to be sharing stories like yours and some of the other guests I've got lined up is because in hindsight, reflecting on the journey, other people can learn. And I always used to say, it's cheaper for you to learn off someone else's mistakes. And really that's what we're learning from your story, is in hindsight, I was fully immersed in that vision, and I was trying to carry people with me. It takes a lot of energy to do that.
Yeah. So that was that's been a real success. I get to drive past that every day, virtually, and see that.
Well, it's like a monument, isn't it? Because it's a permanent piece of art. It's 160 meters long, 11 meters high at its highest point, and it's prominent in the city of Hamilton.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
Okay, shift gears. You're still in council. We've got a new mayor in Hamilton, so you've got a new working relationship. You're still there. How do you balance some of the inner tensions? You're in a political environment. You've got your own morals, values. You've got your own faith. You've got the good of the city at heart, but you've got to run the city. Is there ever a tension inside you when you're in that environment?
Constantly. It's really hard, like especially when you're particularly, like I was saying to you earlier, some decisions are just logical. You know, they're sensible decisions around business as usual, property or dog parks or things like that. But there's some that are more people really struck a chord with, and so you've got real passionate. And for example, we're dealing with racial tensions at the moment, which is huge around the world, and some of our colonial past in Hamilton and statues and things like that, and we're navigating that. And you've got people. There's so many layers to it. So you've got this global feeling, then you've got this local feeling, and then you've got the 12, 13 of us around the table with views and passions and connections and history, and then there's the community views, and then there's the media. God bless the media.
Yeah, probably don't want to start that one.
So it's really hard to navigate. I tend to be quite slow to speak, because sometimes when people are debating things, you hear the different perspective, and it's not until you've heard the different views that you can kind of see what crystallizes and what lands and what position you might take.
Very good.
So that tends to be my modus operandi.
I think we've got too many people at the moment, because it's just rife across the world, and social media makes it worse. Media don't help. I've been saying to people, think long, speak short. So listening to think and then share something rather than react. So I really like what you're saying, because you've got 12 or 13 of you around the table. Understanding different people's perspectives helps to ground us, I think.
Yeah. I actually, we had a little talk about this the other day in the council chamber, where we were talking about this issue, and we've parked it because we need more information, which was good, because I was really hoping everyone just take a deep breath And I actually went around and I said, I'm inspired, and I acknowledged a few of the different speakers. They're all coming from different angles, and they weren't necessarily all agreeing, but they all had, if you cut through the noise, they all actually wanted a good outcome. And so I just felt to kind of unify them in the sense of, and it was just a really special moment. And I didn't actually give an opinion. I just said I'm inspired by all your different views and passions, but ultimately we're all wanting something positive, and that was kind of a special moment. So I didn't necessarily speak to the item, but I spoke to the spirit of collaboration.
I think that's important. Sometimes our role is not to bring an opinion, but it's to unify the people that we're with. So really good observation. Really good observation. I was going to thinking about your council involvement, and you're involved with a lot of strategic stuff, I know, because that's one of your strengths. I was trying to identify what are the personal strengths you bring that make you a really strong contributor for the good of the greater. So there's people in the council that have, that got that cultural perspective. Some have got historical perspective. There's different genders, different cultures represented. What are the strengths? I mean, I can call them out, but what do you think are some of the strengths you bring for the greater good?
It's hard to speak of my own, I suppose, but was it that kumara does not speak of its own sweetness?
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yes, I know that one.
I think I'm not extrovert. I'm not quick to speak. I probably underspeak, but I'll speak when I feel like I need to or should. And I mean, I'm biased, obviously, but I think there's a lot of noise. And I just wish sometimes people would shut up and talk less, but not trying to postulate, not trying to be heard or to grab headlines, but to, can you add value to this conversation? If not, why are you talking?
Yeah.
And I'm probably quite blunt like that, but for me, it's like, it's part of my efficiency as a human. If I can't add to it, well, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. So that's probably a bit not very PC, but that's
let me call one out for you. You and I have got a great journey, personally, friends, business, and other. I've seen in you over time and really appreciated personally your discerning insight. You've got the ability to sense what's happening that's not said or not yet seen, and bring that in a way that edifies or strengthens the situation. So how do you use that in a council meeting, where you've got an undercurrent, you've got motives, you've got an agenda, but you've also got the greater good? What's one of the ways that you've found you can bring that? You've obviously talked about listening. You're very good at listening. What's another way?
Well, when you asked me about this interview, I made me think about my role on council, and I felt to lead with grace and dignity. And I kind of laughed because I'm like, well, that's not me.
Which one, the grace or the dignity?
Well, both.
Okay.
But it challenged me, and I started to go, okay, what is grace? It's unmerited favor. And I was like, well, if I want to walk in that, then I've got to give that. And so I think that's what I was speaking to before. I actually started to, because it's really easy to get caught up in the flesh to flesh and get frustrated with some of the views of other members. But if I was to give them unmerited favour, I would speak to the good that's in them. And I think that challenged me to do that. It's like, I don't want to be a cork on the waves where you're just, tossed around. So to just drop below that and actually go, okay, how can I add value to this person? How can I actually encourage them in a way that will bring out their best, which will neutralise the tension and give us a good, robust outcome? Because ultimately, it's a good principle of governance that people will challenge and test, and the net result is you should get a really good outcome. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, well, you did in a different way, because what I heard you say is, on reflection, is if I want to walk in something like, for instance, grace or humility or dignity, I first need to extend that to others. So in bringing that fruit, the best way is to sow seeds or to serve others. So you're giving them an extension of grace. You're giving them the dignity that you feel you're to walk in, and as a result, you then have a return of that in your way.
The other thing I think I'd add to that, and this is probably, I guess, for listeners, is, and the media does it really well, is that it provides, it's the old, we see one part of the elephant, and the media will take one part of the elephant and vocalize that, or a politician will share one perspective, and it's always out of context. And it's not until sometimes you're in the environment and you see all the different parties and the stakeholders and their 360-degree view that you can actually go, this is why I make the decision. And it's not just the context of the now, it's how it will implicate the future, and it's all that context. So that's a really big part of it. It's really easy to get caught up in a reactionary space. You see something in the headline and you react, and or social media and you react. But you've got to remember it's just one piece of it, and it's not until you just take a step back. And it's trying to find the intent, because often everyone's intent is good, even journalists.
Okay, we'll leave that there.
But if you can take a step back and get more of the context, it actually gives you an ability to respond more proactively rather than this reactionary, because we see so much of that in politics, and
that's fantastic.
That turns people off.
So again, in reflection, just trying to make sure we catch the key points here. Three things I've heard you say. The first one was really to listen well in order to get the context. That I always believe, and I've read a lot lately about racial tension and reconciliation. It's something that I believe we all need to be a part of. But something I read recently was like, we're not going to get that until we stop and listen. And we've got to listen to get the context and to get the intent behind the other party. And so that's a key point. You've also talked about extending those grace and dignity, extending what you want to others. And then finally, just being prepared to think for a while before you respond. So don't react, but listen and think. Those are really good principles for anybody to adopt in contributing in any environment.
Yeah. I remember Bill Hybels once said, people don't need to have their way, but they need to have their say. And that's been a real good default for me, in knowing that people, ultimately they might be happy with whatever decision you make. They just want to feel like they've been heard, and there's power in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So validating the voice, but let's not validate the wrong voice at the wrong time, I think is the flip side. Hey, I want to shift gears before we wind this up. And one of the things that you began a long time ago was a space of inspiration for business people, where they could just come together to encourage one another. So this is different than your business. This is different than your political journey. Can you tell me where that first formed in you?
In the bathtub.
Okay, all right. Mental picture for everyone. Excellent. Okay.
I'm often like, there's all these different elements of our life, right? In this business, and you push. It's like, but you can't force the river. So you get to a point where it's like, you've got a business plan in place, you've got a seed in the ground, you've watered it, and you just have to wait. So I've got all these different seeds going on, and you can't make them go any faster. So I'm like, well, what else can I plant?
Okay.
So there was this desire to, one was make money, but B was also to contribute and give back. And I'd been to a different business network groups, and I felt them all a bit boring. And so I sort of found what is an element that you can provide networking, relationship support, but provide inspiration, and how can I commercialize it? So that was kind of how it started. It's not where it's landed, what ended up, but it's been going, that was since 2007-8, so 12, 13 years.
Yeah, wow. So that's where it birthed.
Yeah.
What does it look like now?
So it's gone through a lot of iterations, but essentially we still meet the first Wednesday of every month. I've partnered with the Chamber of Commerce, which is good, because traditionally I think they were a little bit more, or they'd gone a bit more corporate-y. They'd kind of lost that small business entrepreneur vibe. So this was a nice mix for them, in that they could advertise it to members, and I would sort of do the heavy lifting. They would help me with the admin support. Just a nice sort of compromise, collaboration, and we still do that, and different audiences get attracted to different speakers to hear their story. But ultimately it's to try and create that, I guess what you're doing with the podcast, find the principles that can apply to different life situations, and sometimes people just need a bit of a spark, But it's also physically getting in a room with that environment and the dynamic shift, or you network with someone, you make a relationship, a connection, business connection, sale. So it's kind of evolved from that, and it's given me a platform to speak into people's lives in a way that encourages and uplifts as well.
Very good, very good. So it's really just about creating a space where people can be inspired, encouraged, build community, take principles away that they can then work out how they can apply. Because I mean, I've been there a long time ago, but there were so many different people there from different contexts, and yet they were all hungry to apply some simple or wise principles to their business or their family.
Yeah, and it gives me an opportunity to connect with people as well. So it's sort of there's a selfish element to it, in that it's often, if you want to learn something, teach it.
Wow, very good.
And so it reinforces some of that stuff, and it keeps me accountable.
Yeah, I always say to people, if you want to foster connection, then create it. Pull a group of people together for breakfast, or start a study group if you want to grow in a certain area, or begin to mentor someone, because in mentoring someone, you have to lift your game and you have to grow.
Absolutely.
So giving something is often the best way to receive.
Yeah.
Final question for you just is really one around balance. You've got a business. We're sitting in your office this morning. Thanks for the coffee, by the way. Quad shot really kept me alive. You've got this business that you're running. You're looking to franchise it. You're running this Inspire Hamilton group as a community of business owners. You're on the council, which is greater than 1 day a week. Andrew King owes you for that. That's a full-time gig, man. And you've got Marie at home. You've got 3 teenagers. And community.
So she's running 2 shops now.
She's running 2 businesses. So how do you find balance, man? Help some people out. What are some simple things that you might encourage them with to find balance in their life?
The best thing that I've come across was a Tony Robbins thing. He's got a program called the Time of Your Life, I think he calls it. And he really helped for me identify. He said the metaphor is like a wheel, and it's like, if you were to define your life, you might have spiritual, family, relationships, business, community, these different areas of your life, and you might divvy it up in 6 ways or 8 ways. But if you were to give yourself a mark out of 10, and the 10 would be the outer edge of the wheel, on all these different areas, what would it look like? So spiritual, you might go, bit of a 3, business 7, and as you draw these lines together, you probably end up with a very clunky wheel. And it's like, if you multiply your life at pace with that clunky wheel, the chances are the wheels are going to fall off.
Yeah.
So it's a real good visual metaphor of identifying where the gaps in your, because we naturally default, because I had really strong, I think business was like things around money, rocking that, but then some sad gaps, defaults in other areas. So then you go, okay, what do I want where do I need to strengthen over the next 12 months? What are the focal areas? And you map it down you crystallize it down to like a weekly or 90-day plan, and then a weekly. And so for me, I've just gone, and it changes. I've gone from 7 to 6 to 5. I think I'm at 7 now, where I've got community, business, council's become its own category, family, which includes relationship or marriage, or spiritual, personal. So what are the things that I want to do on personal growth, education, physical exercise, those sorts of things. And then I look at it every week, and based on my 90-day things, what are the steps I need to do this week to achieve? And it's really good. So if I get to, if I'm in a boring meeting, or if I've got a gap, I can quickly turn to that page and go, what do I need to work on? Take the dogs to the vet or something. But I feel then it gives me traction and all these different in balance. And that's been just a useful tool over the last 5 years. It's really helped me feel like it's a physical plan, but it also gives me a sense of I feel at peace knowing that everything's on the table.
Fantastic. So, and the analogy of the wheel that is misshaped is such a good one, because if you've ever had a wheel on your car or your bike that got ruined, you can feel the vibrations. It affects everything. But if someone was extremely out of balance, let's just say they were working 6.5 days a week to get things up and running in a certain area of their life, and they were neglecting family or neglecting their health or neglecting other aspects of the wheel, then it is going to be completely out of balance, and that is going to cause a derailment.
Yeah, the other thing I'll just add is, and because I'm always constantly just nibbling away at everything, like nibble, so that I'm always keeping I try and get the ball back in other people's court. So I've done my bit. It's on you now. It's on you now. It's on you now. So I try and, so I'm not the bottleneck. But the other thing I heard TD Jakes say a few years ago in terms of balance was, one day you might be a great father. The next day you might be a great businessman. The next day you might be great in the church. But it's hard to be great in everything all in one day. So as long as your balance is also maybe over a week or over a month and have that perspective to it, that can provide a bit of balance as well.
Yeah, so you're not necessarily needing to be 10 out of 10 at everything and every day. Yeah, brilliant. Oh, that's really good advice, and I'll make sure I try and find a model for that I can share on on the webpage for people. They can just start to do an assessment on it. Maybe I think the one I've got is 8 spokes on the wheel, which includes a lot of what you've talked about. So Ryan, I really want to thank you for being part of this today. I've been waiting for a while for us to hang out. I love spending time with you, but I also really appreciate your honesty. Like the 7th time that you tried for counsel, you got through the door, but there was so much that we could learn from those other instances, and I really value that and appreciate that. So go well, and we'll meet for coffee again soon.
Thanks, Phil. Really enjoyed it, and thanks for the opportunity.
Cheers.